I chose to have dinner with my boss instead of my husband, and for that, he decided to end our marriage. It's insane, isn't it? How you can make a single, seemingly harmless choice and watch your entire world unravel thread by thread. I honestly don't know what to do anymore. I thought I was doing something small, something insignificant, just to get a little rise out of him. Now, my marriage is a crater, and I'm standing at the edge, covered in the ash of my own making. Let's call my husband my ex-husband now, I suppose, Declan. He's 30. I'm 29. We were married for 4 years, and if you'd asked me 6 months ago, I would have told you things were good. Stable. Happy, even. But there was always this thing about Declan. He was calm. Too calm. A placid lake on a windless day. No matter the situation, he never got riled up, and he never, ever got jealous. At first, I thought it was a dream come true. Isn't that what every woman wants? A partner so secure in himself and in the relationship that he never doubts you for a second? Declan's trust in me was absolute. It was a foundation most people would kill for, a bedrock of tranquility in a world of chaos. For the longest time, I convinced myself it was perfect. No screaming matches over a lingering glance from a stranger, no baseless accusations, no suffocating insecurity. Just solid, unwavering trust. But perfection, I learned, can have its own kind of void. Over time, I started to feel that something was missing. Something subtle but essential. I wanted to feel like he was crazy about me, like the thought of losing me would tear him apart. Instead, Declan's unshakable calm began to feel less like security and more like indifference. I know how dramatic that sounds, but hear me out. It wasn't that he didn't love me. In every practical sense, he was a phenomenal husband. He championed my career, always made time for our date nights, and remembered the little things, the way I take my coffee, my favorite obscure indie band, the story behind a scar on my knee. He cared. But emotionally, I began to feel like I could fade into the wallpaper, and he wouldn't even blink. If I went out with my girlfriends and stumbled home late, all I'd get was a soft, drive safe, before I left, and a sleepy, night honey, when I got back. If I told him a guy had hit on me at a bar, he'd just chuckle and say something like, "Well, he has good taste," before turning back to his book. It was meant to be a compliment, a sign of his confidence in me, but it landed like a thud in my chest. It felt like it wouldn't even matter to him if someone else found me attractive. It didn't faze him at all. I told myself I was being ridiculous, that I was ungrateful for his laid-back nature. But the feeling festered. I wanted him to be a little bit territorial. Not in a toxic, controlling way, I would never want that, but just enough to show me that he saw me as his. Instead, everything just rolled off his back. I started to have this recurring, terrifying thought. If I disappeared tomorrow, he'd just calmly say he hoped I was okay and then go about his day. This idea started to eat away at me. Maybe I wasn't as indispensable to him as I thought. Maybe he loved me in the same practical, comfortable way he loved his favorite pair of worn-in sneakers, dependable, comfortable, and ultimately replaceable if they ever wore out. It sounds absurd, doesn't it? But I began to crave proof of his passion, a spark, a reaction, anything to show me that I mattered to him on that deep, primal level. I did try talking to him about it. I thought if I could just articulate this gnawing emptiness, we could work through it. It wasn't an easy conversation to start, but one evening, I took a deep breath and laid it all out. Declan listened, as he always did, calmly and without interruption. He didn't dismiss my feelings or make me feel silly. He told me he understood where I was coming from. But then he explained something about himself. He said he'd always believed that if someone wanted to be with you, they would be. That being possessive or acting out with jealousy wouldn't change a person's heart. If someone wanted to leave, or worse, cheat, they would do it regardless of how tightly you held on. It was so logical. So, Declan. He wasn't trying to make me feel unimportant. This was just his fundamental view of relationships. He believed in trust and autonomy. To him, that was the healthiest way to love someone. We had a heartfelt conversation, and for a while, I thought we had put the issue to rest. He reassured me that he loved me more than anything and that he didn't need to prove it through jealousy. I told myself I should be satisfied with that. It was the mature, reasonable thing to do. But feelings aren't always reasonable. That little voice in my head kept whispering, "He doesn't care enough." It wasn't true, but I couldn't shake it. I tried to push it down, to convince myself that Declan's steady, secure love was better than the volatile, dramatic passion I thought I wanted. But I couldn't let it go. And that's when I started making mistakes. The stupid, impulsive decisions that snowballed into the avalanche that buried my life. At first, it was just a small idea, a little nudge to see if I could get a spark. I told myself it was harmless flirting. When we were out with friends, I'd smile a little too brightly at someone else's jokes, laugh a little too loudly. A deliberate touch on an arm here, a lingering glance there. I even flirted casually with some of his friends. Nothing inappropriate, nothing I thought would truly cross a line. I kept telling myself it was just a playful game. But deep down, I knew it wasn't for fun. I was doing it to provoke Declan, to see if he would finally react. In the beginning, he just seemed puzzled. He'd give me this confused look, as if he couldn't quite figure out what I was doing. But then he'd just brush it off. No jealousy. No anger. Just Declan, being his usual calm, laid-back self. And for some reason, that enraged me. I know how utterly ridiculous that sounds, but his lack of reaction felt like a rejection. It made me feel invisible, like I didn't matter enough for him to even care. Instead of stepping back and examining my own toxic behavior, I doubled down. I became more obvious, more brazen, thinking that if I just pushed hard enough, I would finally break through his wall of composure. I thought I could control it, that it was just a harmless experiment. Looking back now, I see how poisonous that mindset was. I wasn't trying to fix our marriage. I was trying to manipulate him into being someone he wasn't. And that's when things really started to go downhill. Eventually, Declan sat me down again. This time, his tone was different. It was still calm, but there was a firmness beneath it I hadn't heard before. He told me he didn't like how I'd been acting, that the constant flirting and attention-seeking were out of character for me, and more importantly, disrespectful to him. Instead of feeling ashamed or apologetic, I lashed out. I threw the truth at him, or at least, the twisted version of the truth I had convinced myself of. "I want to see you jealous, Declan." I remember shouting, my voice trembling. "I want to feel like I matter enough for you to get angry. I am sick and tired of feeling like you just don't care." Declan didn't raise his voice. He just looked at me. His eyes filled not with anger, but with a deep, profound disappointment that hurt more than any shouting match ever could. He told me that what I was doing wasn't fair. He said I was trying to force him into a mold that didn't fit, and worse, I was damaging our marriage in the process. Hearing him say that should have been my wake-up call. It should have been a bucket of ice water, snapping me out of my self-destructive trance. But instead, I just felt defensive and hurt. I told myself that he just didn't get it, that if he truly loved me, he would want to show it in the way I needed. His calm, rational response only made me angrier. I wanted fire and passion, not reason and logic. So I became even more brazen, more determined to get a reaction. I started doing things I knew would cross the line. I stayed out later, dressing up more provocatively, and making sure he knew about the attention I was getting from other men. I'd post pictures on social media from nights out, with captions I knew were vaguely suggestive. Declan noticed, of course. He wasn't blind. But instead of reacting the way I wanted, he seemed to retreat further into his shell of calm. It was almost like a challenge. If I was going to act out, he wasn't going to give me the satisfaction of a response. No matter how far I pushed, he remained the same. Calm, collected, Declan. He would acknowledge my behavior with a quiet glance or a non-committal comment, but there was no anger, no jealousy, no passion. Just that infuriatingly calm Declan face. At first, his lack of reaction only fueled my determination. I thought if I just pushed a little harder, he'd eventually crack. But over time, it started to have the opposite effect. Instead of feeling empowered, I started to feel desperate. I was throwing everything I had at him, and it was like screaming into a void. Looking back, I can see how toxic my behavior was, but in the moment, all I could focus on was my desperate need for him to give me something. Anything, to prove he still cared. I guess, at some point, he decided that if I was so determined to break us, he wasn't going to be the one to stop me. Things at work had been getting a little too close for comfort with my boss, Grant. He had been flirting with me pretty openly for months, and I was actively encouraging it, though I wouldn't have admitted it to myself at the time. The truth was, I didn't feel seen by Declan anymore, and Grant saw me. He showered me with compliments, praised my work effusively, and made me feel sharp and desirable. He was the polar opposite of Declan's quiet appreciation. The breaking point, the moment the first crack spiderwebbed across the foundation of my life, came on a Tuesday. Declan, in what I now recognize as a clear attempt to reconnect, suggested we go out to our favorite Italian place, just the two of us. He saw the distance growing between us, and he was trying to bridge it, even if it was just with a simple dinner. But I refused. That same day, Grant had invited me out for dinner as well. He said it was to celebrate the completion of a big project. In the moment, I agreed without a second thought. It sounded innocent enough, right? A work celebration? But deep down, I knew it wasn't about the project. It was about me getting a hit of the attention I had become addicted to. Grant had specifically invited me, and me alone. No other coworkers. That fact should have been a blaring red flag, but I chose to ignore it. I could have asked Declan to come with me. I should have. But I didn't. Instead, I lied. When I told Declan I couldn't make our dinner, I said I had a team dinner with work. I don't even know why I said it. Maybe to preempt the guilt that was already creeping up my spine. Declan didn't press for details. When he asked if he should come along, I just shrugged it off. It's not necessary, I said, trying to sound casual. Just a boring work thing. He kissed me on the cheek and told me to have a good time, but I could see a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. A slight hesitation. And that's when the anger started to build in me again. I wanted him to push back. I wanted him to get upset, to insist that he come with me, to question why my boss was taking me out alone. But no, he just accepted it. And that calmness, that lack of reaction, it pissed me off more than I cared to admit. Was I not worth his time? Was I just that unimportant? At dinner, Grant was his usual charming self, but amplified. He was overly complimentary, flattering, and a little too touchy-feely. He praised my work like I was a prodigy, making comments about how lucky Declan must be to have me. Some of the comments were borderline inappropriate, but instead of shutting it down like I should have, I leaned into it. I laughed a little too hard at his jokes, let him refill my wine glass a little too often, and allowed the attention to wash over me and make me feel important again. When dinner ended, I should have gone home, but instead, I stayed for one more drink. Grant offered to drive me home, and after a moment's hesitation that was more for show than anything else, I agreed. I had already convinced myself I wasn't doing anything wrong. When I walked through the door that night, Declan was sitting on the couch, watching a movie. He looked up at me, a small, calm smile on his face as he asked how dinner had gone. I could barely meet his eyes. The guilt hit me like a physical blow, so strong it almost knocked the wind out of me. And yet, I pushed it away. I gave him a vague, dismissive answer about it being just work and went straight to bed. The next morning, I tried to pretend like nothing had happened, but the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Declan noticed. He always did, but he didn't say anything, not at first. A few days passed, and in a moment of sheer stupidity, I mentioned Grant again, and offhandedly let it slip that it had been just the two of us at that dinner. I said it like it was no big deal, like it meant nothing. I didn't realize how much that bothered him until later that night, when he finally brought it up. He asked me, point blank, "You went out with Grant alone instead of with me?" I didn't know how to answer. I wanted to tell him the truth that I hadn't wanted him there, that I had wanted to be with Grant to feel desired, but I couldn't. Instead, I lied again. I told him it was just a work thing, that he knew how these things were, and that I hadn't known the other coworkers weren't coming. It was a weak, pathetic lie, and we both knew it. It wasn't just the lie that ate at me, though. It was the look in Declan's eyes. He wasn't angry, not in the explosive way I'd always craved. No, he was just disappointed. He didn't argue or press me further. He just accepted my flimsy excuse and let it go. And I thought that would be the end of it. Or at least I hoped it would be. After that day, over the next few weeks, things shifted in ways I couldn't quite grasp. Declan wasn't cold or hostile, but he wasn't the same. There was a new distance between us, an invisible wall that had gone up, and I couldn't figure out how to break through it. He stopped asking about my day, those little questions that had always made me feel cared for. The quiet, comfortable moments we used to share before sleep, when he'd reach for me and hold me close, they just stopped. It was like he was physically present, but emotionally 1,000 miles away. I began to panic. This wasn't what I wanted. I didn't want him to disappear. I wanted him to fight for me, to show me that he cared. But instead, he was just slipping further and further away. I started overcompensating, asking him about his day incessantly, planning little surprises to get his attention. But none of it worked. The more I tried, the more distant he became. I felt like I was chasing a ghost of the man he used to be. One night, after another evening spent in suffocating silence, I couldn't take it anymore. I broke down, sobbing, and begged him to tell me what was wrong, to just say something that would explain why he had pulled away so completely. His response hit me like a punch to the gut. He looked at me, his face devoid of any emotion I could recognize, and said, "I'm done, Rowan." I was in complete shock. How had things gotten this far without me seeing it coming? After all my provocations, all my boundary pushing, this was the breaking point? The fact that I had chosen to have dinner with my boss alone instead of with him? He told me it wasn't just that one dinner. It was everything that had led to it. He said he felt disrespected, like I was trying to change him into someone he wasn't, someone he could never be. He told me how patient he had been, how he had tried to give me space to work through whatever I was going through, but he couldn't keep pretending anymore. He said he didn't feel needed or wanted, and that I had made him feel like he was never enough for me, that I had been looking for something or someone else, and he just couldn't keep living that way. I begged him to reconsider. I promised I would change. I told him I'd stop doing things that made him uncomfortable, stop trying to make him jealous. I told him I'd do anything to save us, to fix what I had broken. But he didn't respond the way I'd hoped. Instead, he looked at me with an air of sad resignation and told me he didn't think I really wanted him. "You want someone I'm not, Rowan," he said, his voice quiet but final. "Someone I can't ever be." The next day, he packed his things and moved out. I've tried everything since then. I've called, I've texted, I've sent long, rambling messages begging for another chance. I told him I'd quit my job if that's what it took. But nothing has worked. The stillness I once resented had finally settled over my life, but now it was the chilling, absolute silence of absence. It's been a few months now, and the shock has worn off, replaced by a dull, constant ache. I want to acknowledge, to anyone who might understand, that I was wrong. Truly, deeply wrong. I had something special, something real, and I threw it all away for a cheap thrill, for a childish need to feel wanted in a specific way. I don't need anyone to keep reminding me of that. I know. I was a monumental idiot. The whole "you don't know what you've got till it's gone" cliché? It hits with the force of a freight train. I miss him so much. I can't even begin to explain it. I feel completely miserable without him, and it stings so much more knowing that this is all my fault. Every night is a battle. I've been devouring tubs of ice cream like it's a prescription, all while watching the movies he loved. I can't believe I'm here, doing this alone. It doesn't help that he's moving forward with the divorce. He is serious. The more I think about it, the more I realize he was done for a long time. He left the very next day, and looking back, I can't help but feel like he had already made up his mind long before that night. He'd been planning it. How did I never see it coming? It's crystal clear now. He wants a divorce. He doesn't want to fix things. He doesn't want therapy. He doesn't want couples counseling. He just wants me to sign the damn papers and let him go. The last time we spoke, his voice was tired. "I'm exhausted from trying, Rowan," he told me. "You made me miserable for so long. There's no way I can go back to that." It crushed me. He said that I wanted something else, and that it was fine, because he wanted something else too. "The kind of peace of mind I'm looking for," he said, "the kind I deserve, can't be found with you." And you know what? He's right. I see that now. I can't fix this. I've been walking around like a zombie these past few weeks. I can't focus on anything, let alone work. My performance at the office has tanked. And right now, I absolutely despise Grant. I can barely look him in the eye. He tried to make a move on me the other day, asking me out for another celebratory drink. I reported him to HR immediately. I'm still waiting to see where that goes, but the whole situation has left a disgusting taste in my mouth. As if things couldn't get worse, my support system has vanished. My mutual friends have all made it clear they think Declan was right to leave me. Even my own parents have sided with him. They said they knew it was only a matter of time before I pushed him away. If they knew all of that, why didn't they say something sooner? Why did they wait until it was too late? It feels like they're all piling on now that the damage is done. Even his parents, the ones I tried to reach out to, hoping they could help me talk to him, have completely cut me off. His mom refused to speak to me and told my sister that she had always known I was a nutcase and that she'd warned him. It's a brutal, isolating kind of pain. Well, it's been a while. Life has been chaotic, to say the least. First off, the thing you're all probably wondering about. The divorce. Yep, it's finalized. Done. Over. No going back. No magic time machine to undo my catastrophic mistakes. It was over in less than an hour at the courthouse. My entire life, my marriage, everything I had worked to build, all gone in the span of a few minutes, just like that. I sat there in the sterile courtroom, thinking, wow, this is it. It felt surreal, like I was floating outside of myself, watching a movie about someone else's life imploding. There wasn't even any drama about property or money. I didn't qualify for spousal support, which stings, but honestly, I don't even want to get into that because it just makes me feel worse. So yeah, that chapter of my life is officially, irrevocably closed. It hurts more than I can even describe. Every time I think about him, about us, it feels like my chest is caving in. I miss him. I miss him so damn much. I regret everything I did to push him away, and all I can do now is wish. Wish that I could go back in time. Wish that I could tell him how profoundly sorry I am. Wish that I could undo every single stupid, selfish decision I made. But there's no going back. This is my reality now. On another note, I quit my job. Yep, that dead-end job I hated with every fiber of my being. After the whole HR complaint against Grant went nowhere, they basically told me it was a he said, she said situation and advised me to maintain a professional distance. I finally said, screw it, and walked out. It probably wasn't the smartest financial decision, but I couldn't take it anymore. I hated everything about that place. It made me feel like even more of a zombie than I already am. So, I quit. I picked up a part-time bartending job to help with expenses and decided to take a chance on starting my own small business, an online vintage clothing store I'd always dreamed of. I know it sounds insane, right? Someone like me, who can barely keep her life together, trying to build something from scratch. But I needed something, anything, to feel like I had some control over my life again. It's still small, like barely off the ground small, but it's mine. I work on it every day, and honestly, it's the only thing keeping me from completely falling apart. That said, my living situation is a whole other nightmare. I had to get a roommate to afford the apartment, the one Declan and I once shared. And let me tell you, she is the absolute worst. I cannot stand her. She's dirty, messy, and completely disrespectful. The apartment is always a disaster because of her. Every time I ask her to clean up after herself, she tells me to do it. Me? Like what the actual hell? I'm not the one leaving dirty dishes in the sink for days or trash all over the place. It's infuriating. The lease is up soon and I'm already counting down the days. I can't wait to either kick her out or leave myself. Ideally, I'd stay, because this apartment still feels like one of the last ties I have to Declan, to the life I threw away. But honestly, she's ruined it for me. If staying means putting up with her nonsense for another year, I'll pack my bags in a heartbeat. My peace of mind is worth more than clinging to a place that's just a painful reminder of everything I've lost. So that's where I'm at. Divorced, miserable, and trying to piece my life back together one day at a time. It's not much, but it's something. I guess we'll see how things go from here. And honestly, if you've stuck around to read every single word of my story, through all my rants, regrets, and ramblings, then thank you. It's weird, knowing that people might care enough to follow along, even when I've been at my absolute worst. It's been a long, messy, painful journey, and while I don't have a happy ending to share, not yet, anyway, just knowing that someone out there listened when I felt completely and utterly alone, it means more than I can put into words. So, yeah, thanks for being here, even if it's just to watch the train wreck that is my life. I appreciate it.